Going live. Make sure you introduce yourself.
I'm Anthony Depew. This is Andrea Parker, Eric Parker's spouse. So we finished up cross-examination of Agent Sully today. Of particular interest was a piece of testimony that he gave where he said that he was able to observe from his position behind post 2, and we talked earlier, that was the gate under the southbound bridge. From his vantage point, he could see on the bridge a man with dark facial hair that pointed a weapon at him. During cross-examination, he had written a report 3 days after the incident. He made no mention of a man on the bridge with dark facial hair. In February of 2015, almost a year later, he had an opportunity with the FBI and U.S. attorneys to make any corrections that he wanted to make to his testimony if his recollection had changed. The only change that he made was that he added in addition that he had been an undercover employee that had attended the rallies. That was not in his initial report. That was the only change that he made. He did not make any changes regarding his testimony that he is now saying in front of the jury that he saw a bearded man with dark facial hair who pointed a weapon at him from the northbound bridge.
They also brought up that he did meet with the FBI and the prosecution prior to coming in on multiple occasions, and that his original testimony did not include that information or the information that he was an undercover.
Well, that's definitely perjured testimony. There's no doubt.
It's not the only time that that's happened. There's been a couple of instances where an agent wrote a report and they've gone back and said, or they've given testimony in front of the jury and they've gone back and said, well, let me show you your report. I think that happened with Agent Rand Stover as well. The exact incident escapes my mind. I'm sure we've talked about it. That's happened 1 or 2 times at this point.
And what does the judge, is there objections to it? What does the judge do?
Today there were objections on every single piece of evidence that was given. The second half of court today was a civilian reporter who was 17 at the time. He was with a contract reporter named Michael Flynn. That man is deceased at this point. But his video is a key piece of evidence for the prosecution here. All 6 defense attorneys are objecting to its inclusion because this young man did not make the video. And for large portions of the video, where Mr. Flynn descends down into the wash, he's down close to the southbound bridge. This particular witness is standing on the northbound bridge, only observing what's being reported. So he doesn't exactly, according to these defense attorneys, there's a chain of custody issue as far as they're concerned with, at what point did this individual get this video? How long was it in his possession? How does he know that it wasn't edited? Questions like that. To this point, there was a sidebar related to that. They've all been overruled. Everything regarding this video from Mr. Flynn and this young man's testimony has so far been admitted.
Wow.
If we could go back to when we were cross-defending, what was the other one?
It was Michael Johnson was the first one this morning, and then we had Agent Sully.
Agent Sully, when we were cross-examining Agent Sully, Todd got up and he asked if Cliven ever came to the protest, and there was objection right away, and that was overruled, so we didn't get to hear the outcome of that. He was asked if you saw Todd at the rally, and this is Todd
Engel.
Not Leventhal. And that was no. Did you see any illegal action? No, that was it. On the 8th, did you see, and this is at the rally on the 7th, this is the undercover agent. On the 8th or the 9th, did you see illegal activity? The answer was no. Did you ever see him anywhere on the 9th, being Todd? And that answer was no. And then it was brought up like, you saw people with military-looking clothing. Is that illegal? No, it's not. You saw people with guns. Is that illegal? No, it's not. You saw 4 people on top of a hill with guns. Was that illegal? No, it's not. So basically what we're going into is everything that he saw as an undercover agent, he was going through to build up this case like these people are doing all this illegal stuff, but really, in all actuality, nothing that they were doing was illegal. Then they were asking if the gentleman himself, as an undercover agent, goes into this rally and he's trying to get communications from other people, did he change, or what did he say? Did you try to dispel some of the rumors that were going around about the BLM shooting cows, basically, is what they were bringing up? And he said, no, he didn't. And then they said, well, then did you continue those rumors or add to the propaganda that the BLM are being heavy-handed? And he also said, no, he didn't. So here he's saying that he's collecting information from the people at the rallies, and this is the rally on the 9th, and then again on the 11th. And he's saying, no, he didn't actually put any information into the conversations, he was only taking information out of it. So basically what we have here is he could have been a provocateur at these rallies, and a lot of the things we saw today, a lot of his response was, I do not recall. Do you remember this truck sitting next to you when you were watching the launch? I do not recall. Do you remember this people pointing weapons at the protesters? Well, I don't recall that. And so basically all day long this gentleman and cross-examination was just, I do not recall. I do not recall.
Agent Sully did a lot of stuttering when it came to what was his role in the rallies that he attended as an undercover agent. Todd Leventhal, counsel for Scott Drexler, says, well, what, were you there talking about the weather? What were you talking about? And the guy said, well, I don't recall. Well, did you do anything to dispel any of the things that were causing people to get agitated? I don't recall. He couldn't recall anything, or says he couldn't recall anything about that conversation. And Andrea brings up a good point. During cross-examination, his position during the protest was behind post number 2 under the southbound bridge, not in the 3 vehicles that were 20 or 30 yards away. He was about 30 or 40 yards back next to an SUV.
You can't see nothing from there.
Well, 20 yards to his right was the blue 4-door Chevy pickup that had the agents with the weapons pointed.
The Park Rangers, right?
Park Rangers. He was asked multiple times, did you see a truck? And they showed the picture. I don't remember seeing that. Do you remember seeing the agents on that truck pointing weapons?
I do not recall.
He did not recall.
So that's on the southbound?
He was behind post number 2, which is the gate under the southbound bridge. So he's between the gate
So
and
it's
the
actually
incident command post.
north of the other freeway then.
That is correct.
Okay,
Yes, it would be
I
north of the southbound
Okay, I'm sorry,
lanes.
I got the picture, and I was thinking someplace different. Okay.
He was between the gate and the incident
Okay,
command post,
okay.
and he was situated no more than 20 or 30 yards from a picture that we have of a pickup with agents stacked on top of it, some
Okay.
of them with their weapons pointed. At 20 yards away, he did not ever remember seeing that vehicle.
Any testimony from Dennis Michael Lynch?
Well, we don't know. We haven't seen the witness list.
Anything from P. Love? Any dates or anything?
For Dan Love. I would bet big money that he is never called to testify by the prosecution. His ethics violations at the Department of the Interior are too much of a liability. I don't think we're going to hear from him.
That's a big win, guys.
The defense will be calling him, though. Some of the other stuff when Todd Leventhal went up, he brought up the fact that in his testimony, he said that after Dave Bundy was arrested, and that video of Dave Bundy being arrested went viral, that is when he then his duties changed, and he became an undercover agent. But then when asked that in cross-examination, he refused to say that the video had anything to do with it. Instead, it was one of the elements why it went viral, and he went undercover because of a post that they made on a Bundy supporting website that, what was it, the Range War Starts Tomorrow, I believe. He did say that he did view the video of Margaret Houston being clotheslined and thrown to the ground. We never got to see the video, but he did say that he saw it. He also said he saw the BLM put up their First Amendment zone, and he was asked if he was aware of BLM shooting cattle. I believe that was objected to right away. He said there was some news of the BLM stealing cattle is how he got back into this, and this is when he said when you went undercover, there's all of these things that people are upset about. These are videos that are going out that are pulling at the heartstrings of, say, animal rights activists, First Amendment activists, constitutionalists, and that it was pulling people in for different reasons. And when you're undercover, did you try to dispel any of those rumors? And he did not.
So, and part of the context of that was this agent made the statement that he feared for his life. They're all saying this, that they were terrified, that they feared for their lives because there were so many people with guns and it wasn't a protest. But he had made a particular statement that when he stood there in his position behind post number 2, he couldn't imagine why the American people would be so angry with law enforcement. And that's where Todd Leventhal came back and said, well, did you see the arrest of Dave Bundy? Did you see the scars on his face? Did you see Margaret Houston? Did you see Ammon Bundy? Did you see all of that? And yet you're shocked that the American people are as upset as they were.
Yeah. And the testimony yesterday that 2 bullets were euthanized and 27 were killed during the impoundment process.
Say those numbers real loud, somebody.
I don't remember
Two
here.
bulls were killed and around 27 other cattle were put down, and I believe that was in the testimony
And that's what the
yesterday.
BLM admitted to.
Yes,
That's
I
right.
believe so. He also said, he was also asked on April 11th if he had a meeting with Love and Schuler, and he refused to say that he was there. But he did know that BLM were closing operations that day, the following day. April 11th, and that it would be public information, so on the 12th people would assume that the BLM had gone. And he said, no, that's unreasonable to assume because the BLM had, what were they calling, assets still left at the site.
They had equipment, trailers, and of course one agent has testified that they believe that the cattle that they had rounded up were effectively deeded to the federal government, so they weren't willing to, at that point on the 11th, leave everything
They would
behind.
need a travel slip to be able to
give them a
transfer
hand,
if they were then
I'll
at
hold
that
this.
point, once they're needed. Because usually to go through a port of entry or anything, you've got to have that travel slip to be able to transport the cattle, and that was a big issue.
Now, the transport cattle, you got to have a branding inspection documentation. Now, I've witnessed the Bundys do that several times, and they never bypass that anytime they transfer cattle, because I mean it's the proper thing to do. And the branding inspector comes in, checks out the cattle, how many cattle are supposed to be, make sure they're all branded and everything, and that has to be done no matter who's doing it. When it goes from across any state line, or even coming from Bunkerville down to Vegas, there still has to be a branding inspection and a documentation to prove it.
Okay, then they called Alex Ellis. He, like we said before, was 17 at the time. He was with a reporter. He immediately goes into his testimony and says that they arrived, what was it, the night of the 11th?
They were there on the 11th,
The
closer
night
to
of
the
the
evening.
11th, and when they drove in, they were immediately in fear because they saw a couple, 5 to 6 men with long guns, on their bodies. And so they decided not to go that way, and they were immediately in fear of their lives, just showing up at the rally. Then they said they go over to the stage where there's maybe 50 to 60 people, and they're milling around talking to people over there. They decided to go home and come back the next day because many of the people were gone. They then return at 7:30 the next morning to say that there's many more people, they're even more fear of their life, because there's more legally, operating humans with guns at the site. Nobody was pointing any weapons. He went into that on a couple times. And then we go right into them producing these images of video. And I find it interesting that they cut them all up. We're going 51, 52, 53. Okay, that seems right. Then we go 64, 70, 71, 72. Well,
These are exhibit numbers.
in between those video exhibit numbers is the video where the lady comes up to the North Brown Bridge and says, you guys, they need help down in the wash. There's BLM agents pointing weapons. That video they did not show. But the gentleman did ask why they went from the other side of the road to this side, and that's what he said. There was a lady that came and said that they needed help because there was BLM agents pointing guns at the protesters.
And that was at the 11th?
No, this is the
This
12th.
is the morning
She's
of
on
the
the
12th,
12th.
Morning
yes.
of 12. Okay.
Andrea, did they by any chance say why they returned on the 12th if they were so afraid on the 11th?
No, that was never asked. But we haven't gotten to cross-examine yet. They did say that the protesters were shouting, your court order does not apply here, that the horsemen showed up and then the group rallied behind them. Here we go again, we go 78, 79, 80, we show those.
I was watching that
In
one
that
instead of that one.
video, he does say to the kid, Alex, he says, write down if you can understand what they're saying on the loudspeakers. And then he was asked, well, what was it that you wrote down? And he said, the crowd needs to disperse, and they had been authorized to use up to lethal force.
Good.
So that also made it in, so that was something good. I don't know if they were he accidentally said that, if that wasn't supposed to be put in there. They did go into a lot of recognizing people on the screens. I believe they pointed out Ryan Payne a few times. They pointed out Pete Santilli. They pointed out
They pointed out Michael McGuire.
So there was lots of that going on during the videos as well. And that's pretty much where we left off at the end of the night, right?
This gentleman's testimony was interesting because the video from Michael Flynn, the government, if you've read any of the filings, has gone to great lengths to exclude or preclude what they call prejudicial information. The person recording this film was very panicked about the situation and saying, we have a bunch of people with guns and the law enforcement is scared. This is a bad combination. It's an argument contrary to fact from his frame of reference. He has no idea what state of mind anybody is in, but through this video he's making that judgment. And defense attorneys were very quick to jump on top of that, but of course it's open. So this deceased photographer's video, where he's making his own commentary and making judgments that can't be substantiated, he can't be cross-examined, there can be no way for these defendants to talk to this person and ask what their state of mind is, or why he felt the way that he did, and yet it's admissible as evidence. So on the one hand we have that issue, but on the other hand, as Andrea said, the kid did verify that the BLM said we were authorized to use up to lethal force. He did verify that a woman ran across the highway to the group of protesters that were in the northbound lane, and she said, hey, the BLM is pointing weapons at protesters. So we did get an independent verification of that. So it was kind of a good and a bad thing, but that was where this gentleman's testimony more or less left off. They'll have some more video clips for him tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get into cross-examination.
So what's your feelings in general, the way things are going?
I personally think these defense attorneys are doing really good at planting seeds for reasonable doubt.
Okay.
Everything that the government has proffered up to this point, there's been a reasonable cross-examination. For example, the gentleman that said that he saw a sniper drop behind a barrier next to a spotter. And Eric's attorney, Jess Marchese, was able to stand up and say, so you were 300 yards away and a man dropped behind a Jersey barrier. How do you know what he was doing? How do you know what he was doing? I mean, for all we know, he could have been tying his shoes.
Yeah.
You know, so they've done a lot to plant the seed of reasonable doubt, and I think when they come back through the rest of their opening statements, through their evidence, and through their closing arguments, they're going to debunk a lot of this, and it's just really at that point it's in the hands of the jury to reasonably judge whether or not this was, as the government contends, a massive, unprecedented, violent armed assault. That's a direct quote from their filings, with a mounted cavalry that formed a skirmish line that could have breached the gate. We would laugh about it if our friends and family weren't on the hook for a life sentence. Or this jury is going to determine that this was in fact a lawful protest, where people were lawfully armed and lawfully exercising their First Amendment rights.
One of the other things that he said in that video, as they're driving, he says, this is against the law, we're going to get arrested. He said that over and over again, and that was allowed in the courtroom. So he can't say one way or another if it's against the law what they were doing. What they were doing in the video was driving on I-15, so there's nothing about what they were doing that was against the law. And that was also just allowed to be played in the courtroom.
So why is he worried about, okay, he's
A reporter.
What's that?
He was a reporter.
He's a 17-year-old reporter.
So why would he think it's even against the law?
Well, it was actually the deceased man that was saying this is against the law. We don't know. We're not allowed to ask him these questions. So basically, we're watching a video where he's driving going, oh no, this is really bad. This is against the law. We're going to get in trouble for this.
Arrested.
We're going to get arrested. Yeah, basically.
How old was Michael Flynn when he died?
I don't know.
They didn't show a picture of him?
No.
I met him. I talked to him when I was out there. That's why I'm asking. I'm pretty sure I know. If I saw him again, I'm pretty sure. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brent. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, I wasn't here yesterday. Carol told me something really funny about how the BLM classified what gear and weapons they were allowed to have. So I want to hear from one of you two, because Carol wasn't going to be a reporter. So can you go back and refresh on that
Yeah.
funny moment.
Well, defendants, I don't remember laughing about it, but defendants are going to make the case that the Bureau of Land Management and the U.S. Park Police were excessively militarized. The government has gone to great lengths to try to preemptively strike at that and paint the picture that these gentlemen, armed to the teeth, were just acting in the normal scope of their duty. And so one agent testified that standard issue is a pistol, with a backup pistol if they want, with a Remington shotgun, with a Colt AR-15. That's standard issue for a BLM or a U.S. Park Police
So they
Ranger.
didn't say a Remington 270?
They said a Remington shotgun, I think is all that they said. From
And
there,
light body armor.
and they
Yeah,
are
light
they are
body armor,
issued light
yes.
body armor, but they have
You
the
gotta watch out for those
option.
mountain lions, you know.
They are at the discretion of their supervisor. They are allowed to carry hard armor plates, and with that comes a carrier, and with that comes a magazine holder, and all of the things that make a land management agent look militarized.
And that's standard issue, and it's typical of them to carry all those things on typical operations. No, it might be his. Is that yours?
Oh yeah, that's
So
Yeah.
you said typical. Did they explain what typical is to them?
No, they did not. They just said it was typical, just like a First Amendment zone is typical procedure. It's typical for you to have that many guns as a BLM agent on any operation, and it's typical to be erecting First Amendment zones as well. That's where it becomes laughable, right? It's typical. We do
That's
it all
gonna be
the
my
time.
excuse from now on. Typical.
It's typical.
It's perfectly acceptable for a land management agent to roll into a wash, point a weapon at citizens, and then be shocked when they posture defensively. That's what this is going to come down to. It is atypical for citizens, in this case, to exercise their First Amendment rights while being lawfully armed. That, according to the government and all the witness that they've put forth, is atypical. So it's going to come down to convincing this jury that what happened was absolutely lawful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Skip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. And that concludes the
So, as you can see, a bunch of nothing, if you ask me. If I
That
was in
concludes the
courtroom, I'd probably
broadcast.
bust out laughing.
Thank you.
Because some of the stuff
Thank
is
you.
straight up ridiculous and common.